This is the first use case in the sequence. We are at the start of the sign-in sequence, and here we add things to the web application to get our desired effect. Initially anonymous. The case is very common. A site is full of info and only some very specific things require authentication. That way, the site has a low threshold, but privacy sensitive or expensive things will force you into authentication. The solution principle is just not to issue the 401 in the authorized request event. The result is code that runs with an anonymous iClaims principle. Implementation. If we're using the default authorization module, then this allow element on the root of your application will do it. This is exactly what the wifdemo application does. And because we wanted the automatic redirect in the previous demos, I always went to the sub1 subdirectory because it has a deny anonymous users on it. There are other authorized request event handlers that also issue 401. You can use them in the same way. DubIF comes with the Claims Authorization Manager, and you can add your custom code there, and you're ready to roll. You have many options to switch from anonymous to authenticated. There are the regular HTTP tricks in the ASP.NET environment, and DubIF just uses the known tricks too. The simplest way is usually that the user goes to a protected page through a bookmark, a favorite, or you explicitly redirect them to such a page in your code. This is what you already do in the pre-claims area, and it still works. If you choose with calls to redirect, then you have to pay attention, because there are often two methods. One that does generate the DubIF module events, and the other method which does not. It is up to you to choose. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't matter. It depends if you or others are hooked into the events or not. If you are this deep in DubIF, then Reflector is really your only friend. Do realize that events normally happen at HTTP module time, not at the page handler time. So if you generate events, then doing it in a module is the safest bet. Now, you may be wondering what you should do, isn't it? In practice, this is not a problem. I normally implement the most important use cases in a proof of concept. Then I use the feedback to make a redesign, and with 2 or 3 iterations, it's settled. By then, you will have ample experience, and changing the code is just a couple of minutes work. If you want, then you can completely disable the 401 processing of the WS Federation Authentication module. Just set this thingy to false. There's nothing magic about it. WS Federation Authentication module will simply not do anything in the end request event. Then you have to do everything with your own DubIF code. I think Victorio shows samples of this, and I believe there's something in the SDK too. So let's look at the wifdemo application. Here we are at our yellow server that we use as a workstation for our browser. I've cleared domain cookies, cleared Fiddler, etc. So let's go to our wifdemo application. As you can see, this is an anonymous user, and here is a button. If I hit this button, something will happen. We are redirected to our arrange provider. No surprise there, because that's what the button suggests. Then I log on. And now we are this user and we are authenticated. So what happened? To see that, we are going to the green server. And here is our wifdemo 1 application. We are looking at its web.config, federation metadata, everybody should be able to get there. Sub1, deny anonymous, but at the root, allow everyone. That's why we got in. Now let's take a look at the code behind, because there we can see what the application does. In page load, it checks a couple of things, prepares some text strings and controls. If authenticated, then fill the claims grid and make it visible. If not, make it invisible. No authentication, no claims. Then we're going to take a look at the buttons. And here is redirect click. First we prepare a message that happens a little bit lower. Then, if there are extra parameters, add them to the message. If there is a session cookie, delete it, because if we don't do this and there was already a session cookie, the new SAML token will not be used, it will stick to the old one. And then print the message into a string and redirect to that string. So that's what happened. Let's take a look at our Fiddler trace to see if we can see that too. Back at our application. Okay, this was the first page that we fetched. Here we do a post with the redirect please button, and this is where it does the redirect. 401 wasn't even generated, it was a direct call, 302, go. It went to the realm choice, did the logon, post with the UID, back, convert to a session cookie, and there we are. Remember, this is frame 10. Now we're going to look at something else, because this was direct programming of .if. Now we want to do something at HTTP module time. To do that, we have a different button, and that's the 401 button. I'm going to hit that. Take a look at what happened. Nothing appeared, it just flashed. Well, let's look at Fiddler, what that flash was meaning. 10 was our previous frame. Here we do a post with the 401 button. A post. And the 401 was actually generated, but it was converted to a 302 with a redirect. But most important, here you can see that the session cookies were cleared. We're going to show you later on who did that, because that was also our code. Okay, we go to the ADFS server. This is single sign-on, so no questions asked. New SAML token, convert to cookies, and here we come in with the cookies again. So let's go to green again to look at who cleared that session cookie. Back on green in with demo 1. We had redirect click, and then we did 401, and that one will send a 401 response, which is over here. Well, that's simple too. You could pick up something that somebody passed to us over here, because we're in event. If you want to know something what happened in the application, then it should be here. Make a very small body, do a 401, and complete request. Well, that was the 401 button, but now what happened? WS Federation Authentication Module picked up in the end request the 401 and generated an event, and that one was of course this one. And this is our code, and what it does is if is authenticated, then there's a session cookie, kill the session cookie. That's why it was cleared. Let's go for our next scenario. Initiate new authentication is not exactly the same as the previous one. There's a subtle difference. Here you want a user to provide new credentials now, or you want them to provide specific credentials. For instance, your work passport, and you do want a certificate now. And the solution principle is very simple. You add a wfresh parameter equals 0 if you want them now. And if you want a specific one, you add wauth. That is also called the step-up scenario, because you will typically require a higher level of authentication. The implementation is also simple, but there's a little catch. You just have to know it. You first have to delete the current session cookie if there is any. Otherwise, the application will ignore the new security token. It will continue with the old session token. And unfortunately, there are a ton of catch-22s with this one. Windows integrated logon can be invisible. It's cached in browsers, somebody might be in the safe zone, etc. They will never notice that they are re-authenticated, which might be a surprise. But okay, that's live. Another one is client-side SSL certificates. As long as you're in your browser, it will never ask you for the certificate again. Now this can be solved, of course. It's caching, but it is browser dependent, and client-side script browser dependent is always just an extra hassle. Here's our browser. We are logged on to green, and we are going to try the new trick that is the wfresh parameter. We'll do redirect to issuer, and there's our prompt. So the realm cookie was used, but we are prompted for credentials. And there we are. Well, let's take a look at Fiddler. Here's our post with the redirect. Here's the new request to the server. Let's take a look if we can see the wfresh. Yes, there we are. Here's the wfresh 0. And what was the result? That we got our logon page here. Here we post our logon page. I redirect again to make a new session cookie. Here's a new session cookie. And there we are. Okay, let's get Fiddler out of the way and get on one of our other friends in here. IE HTTP headers is another tool. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. This one is a little bit easier when you work with certificates. Fiddler can do it too, no doubt, but this is just less work for me to demo. So that's why I do this. Then wauth equals a very nice curse. Yeah, I copy this one. Okay, so if we hit a redirect to issuer, we're going to do the step-up scenario because this is explicitly requesting for a certificate. And beware, a certificate chooser. Select this certificate, go. Okay, of course, just like Fiddler, we can take a look. This is our post with a response redirect. Here is our get, which is the result of a redirect, and there is our wauth parameter. Remember, a redirect to issuer just copies them from this text box. Well, that's what happened exactly. Then we are redirected to SSL client because you have to renegotiate a new SSL session, this time with a client-side certificate. And of course, the user will sing to with demo. Change this to a session cookie, and then here at the bottom we get this screen. Let's go down to see the authentication method. Yep, now the authentication method is TLS client, which is in a claim. Okay, the next scenario.